What is COVID-19? Before COVID-19, people didn't take things very seriously. And COVID-19 didn't even exist at first. People are having vacation, having a lovely time with parents. Overseas friends came over without doing a restriction of limit. But COVID-19 is a kind of virus that spread to one another. When you don't wear a mask and you cough, people do stay at home for 14 days quarantine. Now, COVID-19 is a kind of serious virus that's spreading all over the world now due to the pandemic. And pandemic is another way of saying COVID-19 or coronavirus. And we do notice that at first COVID-19 was not very serious. People didn't take it very seriously, only China and the nearby countries like Hong Kong and Taiwan. We noticed that Taiwan took it so seriously that people didn't get so much virus. And we only noticed that China was the only country that needed to do quarantine when they entered other countries. But when you notice, when China was the only country entering so much places, like only the nearby countries like Singapore, Malaysia, things grew. And what is a lockdown? Last time, nobody knew what a lockdown is. It looked like a dystopian scene. A dystopian is like when something bad happens. And we do notice that lockdown is a dystopian scenery because no one knew what lockdown was. Lockdown was a new thing maybe people knew. People didn't know what it was like. People didn't even know what is going to happen. Lockdown is basically when your country has a number of virus in your country or a lot of pandemic that people are reaching, then you will have to. A lockdown means that only certain amount of necessary stuff are open, more like the important stuff that you can't live without. And we do know some important stuff are like the grocery store. Why can't people live without a grocery store? Let me tell you why. Grocery store is one of the most important necessary stuff and important things that people always need. Without the grocery stuff, we are all going to black out like dead. Because when we run out of food, the only thing that should be open is the grocery store because it needs everything you need. But if you look around the pandemic right now around the earth, we do notice that the first one is the US. Now, US was run by Donald Trump. Not anymore, and now run by John Biden. John Biden is the 46th president of the US. The US had one not really caring about COVID-19 and tried to avoid COVID-19 with Donald Trump. Now, at first, Donald Trump thought in his head was COVID-19 was not important. COVID-19 was just not very seriously going to affect us. Now, when he knew that, he said it in his mind, and Donald Trump did get COVID-19. Wow, that's really, if you really think that COVID-19 is not important, and that president of the US got the COVID-19, and he really regretted it, not wearing a mask and saying things like, oh my god, COVID-19 not important. And he didn't actually just say that, but he didn't protect the country. So what is it going to be after COVID-19? Is it going to be some serious emotion? Now, people are always looking for one thing that can never be in life. It is the most important vaccine. What is a vaccine? A vaccine is when it cures something. We want something that cures something. And we all notice that medicine kills our sickness. But COVID-19 is taking us so seriously that I am going to faint. I want to start traveling, but all this restricted places, and not shared bubbles are not allowed. And what is shared bubble? Shared bubbles are when one country want to allow your citizens from that country, example like Singapore, share the bubble with Hong Kong. That means Singaporeans just go to that country, don't have to quarantine. And that means a lot of countries. But example, you're going to try to share country with the US. I don't think any country will want to do that because a lot of virus is happening around the country. But how did the US became so non-affected at first and became so heavily getting so much pandemic. Firstly, in the January, the US was just 0 cases. No one ever noticed the US is going to be the first ever big country to have the pandemic. At first, we knew that China had it, and a lot of countries didn't even start to have the pandemic at first. It was mostly nearby countries like Malaysia, like Singapore, Indonesia, and nobody knew that the US was going to have a pandemic soon enough. Until the day came, and the US did not just have a pandemic, but had a protest with the black people's rights. And when they had that, people were nervous, was scared, and people not just had the black protest about who should have the right. It was also that they did have the most virus happening in the world, the first. And let me just tell you, having a protest, having a virus is two scary stuff. Firstly, you're in a crowd with more than 10,000 people there. And the US is the third most populated city in the world, was having also just a protest, not only just a protest, but also the US. Okay,